Welcome to this programming tutorial. In today's tutorial, we're going to look at errors and we're going to look at simple validation routines. Let's first take a look at errors. I'm going to type out a simple piece of code. In this case, the code is going to repeat the phrase hello world a bunch of times. Notice how I've got an error in this line. If I run this program, you'll notice that the terminal down here will give you the errors, normally at the bottom. This is called a syntax error. Syntax is a word used to describe your code. It says here it's missing parentheses. Remember that print statements encase everything in parentheses. When you make a typo or when you write a piece of code wrong, it comes up with a syntax error. However, this little program also has another error. While the code is correct, it has a logical error. This means that the logic of the program is incorrect. The problem here is that I have x set to 0 and a loop that will repeat while x is less than or equal to 5. This code will run infinitely. It's an infinite condition-controlled iteration. And that's a logical error because while the code is written correctly, the program will not function well and will eventually break. In Python, you might also suffer from another error called an indentation error. Let's have a look at that running. There we go. An indentation error is when you don't have the correct spacing in one of the lines. In this case, my print statement needs to be tabbed to have the correct spacing under the while loop. Let's now look at some checks we can do. First, I want to check to see if a string is empty. Let's create a string over here. I'll call it name. I will write Mr. McAuliffe over here. I want to check if this string is empty. Keep in mind, you can also do this for any user inputs. To do this, I'm going to write if the length of my name variable is less than or equal to, the length of my name variable is equal to 0, then print name is empty. Python provides the len subroutine, which comes with 2 brackets and data inside it, to return the length of a piece of data. You can return the length of a string directly by typing the string in here, or you can do what I've just done and write the variable name. By checking if the length of the name is 0, we can correctly see if the string is empty or not. Let's now check if it has a minimum length. For this, I can change the operator to say if it's less than or equal to 5, let's print out error must be above 5. I'll create a variable called number and assign it the number 5. Then we'll say if number is greater than or equal to 1 and number is less than or equal to 10, then print number is between 1 and 10. By using the Boolean operator and, I can check whether the number is between 1 and 10. Keep in mind, if you write the symbols like this will check if the number is between 2 and 9, because it's saying if number is greater than 1 and number is less than 10. I can also flip this by saying if number is less than 1 or number is greater than 10, then number is not between 1 and 10. Let's now check to see if a number is even or odd. Every even number is easily divisible by 2 and will always return 0 remainders. We have an arithmetic operator that lets us check the remainders of a division, and that is modulo. So let's write a number again. I'll put 200 or 2005. I can then say if number modulo 2 is equal to 0, then print number is even. Elif number modulo 2 is not equal to 0, then print number is odd. Now I can check if the number is even or odd by running the program. There we go. If I change this to a random even number, we should get number is even. This is an easy way to check if a number is even or odd. You could shorten this by removing the elif and keeping it as else. Next, let's look at Python's inbuilt functionality to be able to try code and continue with the errors instead of breaking like it does now. Let's say I have a variable. This variable is x, but I haven't created the variable. Python has a built-in function called try and except to try code and do something if there's an error. If I print x here, we know that we haven't created x, so this will be an error because x does not exist. So if it's an error, I can then print and say x does not exist. Let's try this by running the program. There we go. Because I've not created the variable, x does not exist. There are other commands you can use for this. I could go underneath here and write else. Else will do something if no error occurs. No errors. And let's now create an x variable at the top. We should get the print working, and then else should appear after it because there are no errors. There we go. Lastly, we can also use a finally command. This happens anyway. The finally command will let a piece of code run regardless of whether there's errors or not. Let's remove the x to cause an error to occur. And as you can see, the code runs anyway. We can also change the exceptions that are written here in our code. For example, if I set x to equal -1, I check to see if x is less than 0, I can raise an exception error by writing raise exception. In this case, I'll say, sorry, no numbers below 0. If I run this program, you'll see the exception will appear, and it will say, sorry, no numbers below 0. So you can control the error messages. I can also modify this program to say x is equal to hello, and say if not type x is int, raise type error, only integers allowed. Let's go through this. I've assigned the string data hello to x. I'm saying if not type x is int. Type is a subroutine inbuilt to Python that will return the data type of the variable. In this case, it should return a string. By saying type is int, I'm checking to see if the data type is an integer. By writing not at the beginning, I'm checking to see if it's the opposite, if it's not an integer. So if it's not an integer, then it's going to raise and change the type error to only integers allowed. Let's see the program run so this makes a bit more sense. There we go. The type error has appeared and it says only integers are allowed. There are lots of different ways you can control the errors that pop up in your program, and it's a useful way to organize your code. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful.